Hi there, this is Dennis Wells. Welcome to the Financial Advantage. We're powered by the Wells Funding Group. Super excited to be joined today by Andrew Dorazio of the Dorazio Realty Group in Chicago. And Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did get a chance to peruse your website there a little bit, and thank you for your service. Tell us a little bit about your heart for veterans, where that came from, and how you live that out.
Yeah, so I served in the Army from 2007 until 2013 before moving to Chicago with my wife and settling down here. And so we've been dedicated to veteran causes since pretty much since the minute we've gotten out and tried to give back across it. And we do a lot of things now to help that community, and my almost my entire team's all veterans too, which is kind of a unique piece of the equation. But we definitely try to focus on helping buyers use their VA loan and buy homes, multifamily buildings, whatever it may be. So we definitely have a large veteran focus here.
Awesome. What are some, you mentioned the VA loan. I know a little bit about that as well, but I want to hear from you because we had that discussion. What are some great things that maybe veterans don't understand that they can do with the VA loan to really increase wealth through real estate?
Yeah, it's kind of a game changer for a lot of folks, right? And people mostly know the VA loan as the 0% down loan. I've had some other realtors that never even heard of it before, which is odd. But it's a very unique way to buy a property with very little money out of pocket, right? I've seen people truly come to closing with $0 cash to close. So it is certainly possible, and you structure these deals properly, you can get it done. And so a couple things people don't know: you could buy a 2 to 4 unit multifamily property, live in one unit, rent the others. There's no PMI. There's a lot of different ins and outs. There's a lot of nuance too to the VA loan. So I always I give some directional guidance on how to use them. I always recommend people talk to a lender who's experienced in that front, just to kind of understand all the different components of it. But yeah, VA loan is a very powerful tool, a way to build wealth, generational wealth. Sometimes from a early start and for a low price. So
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it's nice because you can have two VA loans at the same time as well.
that's
So
another. Yeah, you could have more than one. That's for sure. Yep. So
a lot of people
great
think,
point.
oh, like I've used it before, I can't use it again. It's like, well, you could use it again and again. And I think it's a great, one of the best things we do for our veterans. We should do more, but it's one of the best things that we do for sure.
For sure. Yeah. I had somebody come to me the other day and say, well, I never deployed before, so I don't think I qualify for the VA loan. I said, that has got nothing to do with it, man. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And I think the other tough part with the VA loan is that there's a lot of agents out there that don't know much about it or heard some rumors that it's a challenging loan process. So they'll in a competitive bid environment, they'll take a conventional or FHA even loan before they take a VA loan. And from my understanding, is that VA loans close at a higher percentage than conventional loans do. So I think there's less risk. I think there's just some misconceptions about it, and which cause people to be nervous or scared or whatever to go through it. But
Yeah.
I got to do my job to educate folks on that front. So.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason for the podcast. I mean, unfortunately, some people think 0% down is like a down payment assistance loan. And it's like, well, you've earned your down payment 100%, but the average VA borrower has a higher credit score than the average conventional borrower. The average VA borrower has, more cash reserves than the conventional borrower. So if there is a situation where there's an appraisal gap or something, more than likely that veteran is going to have resources that the conventional person is not going to have. And we can go straight to the regional operating center for the VA with that appraisal, and they can just decide to up the value on their own. So there's just a lot of again, a lot of things that people don't understand that if they did, I think they would accept VAs all the time, which they should.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So, and doing a lot of investing. I think you said you started in the business as an investor.
That's right. Yeah, in 2008, I sort of did that house hack thing where you buy a 4 unit building and live in one. I didn't really know what I was doing back then. I was 22, and this is like a weird time to get into real estate in 2008. But charged forward anyway, and kind of just tried to pave a path and pick up buildings little by little as I saved more money. And over time, the portfolio kind of grew. So yeah, we started off on the mostly on the investment side, and then when I came here to Chicago, I said, oh, maybe I'll learn the sales side of things to see what see if I can meet some people, see if I could find deals, see if I could just maybe learn a new skill or two or get access to more data. And so that turned into a very nice business over the years. But simultaneously, we've been growing the portfolio, and now our sister company, BCG Real Estate Group, we have a property management company, and we own close to 60 units now in Chicago, and we buy and renovate 5+ unit buildings, and with the goal to kind of make neighborhoods a little bit better, make the quality of life for our tenants a little bit better, and so yeah, it's been a very wild ride, and filled with lots of learnings over the years. So, but it's been good.
Yeah, yeah. I encourage people. Sometimes you just have to jump in and learn as you go, because if you wait until you figure it all out, they'll probably never get started.
Too late. Yeah, yeah. We often say we're building the plane as we're flying it, and it's you make some mistakes during it. I was talking with my partners last night, and you how you operate when you own 10 units versus how you operate when you own 100 is different, very different.
Yeah,
And sometimes you go through some growing pains when to get to that point. And we're at a point now where we're starting to change things that we've been doing the last 2 years as we've grown, and we're going to be changing more things, I'm sure, in the next 4, 5, 10 years. So we plan to be doing this for the rest of our lives. So hopefully all good things, and hopefully the growth continues. So.
yeah, yeah. I love it. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about getting into real estate investing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see enough agents do it. That's a interesting thing I've uncovered over the years. Is like we as agents, we have a lot of access to a lot of information, a lot of people, a lot of resources, and so many know so little about investing. So I think that's a powerful thing they could do to start building their wealth. Um, but I would say like the couple biggest pieces that I've taken away from this over the years, the uh the going to 0 to 1 is the hardest part, right? Like the first deal. And there's a lot of people, and like you ask people, okay, what's your hesitation to get in this? It's like analysis paralysis. I don't know if I have the resources. I don't know if I'm smart enough to do this. I will assure you that anybody listening to this is probably smart enough to jump in. So you kind of just have to figure it out. And like it's not always about resources, it's kind of about resourcefulness, I like to say, right? So figure out what's needed in this recipe, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's intelligence or knowledge. And if you have a shortcoming, figure out how to close that gap. So but I would say the biggest thing, take action. You could only do so much from reading a book, right? I think a lot of people say this, but if reading a book was all it took to be good at some of this stuff, everybody would have a six-pack, and everyone would have $1 million. So it takes getting out there, it takes making mistakes, and learning. And it's not too late to start for most people too. I think people get in their 40s and 50s and think like, I wish I did this years ago. Yeah, when you're 70, you're gonna wish you did it at 50, and when you're 80, you're gonna wish you did it at 60, right? So if there and there's also ways to do this stuff too without like letting other people do the harder things or the things you don't like in the process. So yeah, if anybody listening wants to talk about investing, and just I'm probably the easiest person to talk to about getting started, and because I probably had all the stupid questions that you might have. Um, so yeah, I'd say action is the biggest educator in all this.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, it's not so much about resources, but about resourcefulness. Like if you have the end in mind, it's just a matter of figuring out, what I need to do to get from point A to point B, and even probably more importantly, who do I know that can help me get there?
For sure. Yeah, it's a team sport, right? It definitely is a team sport. And it's like takes a lot of, you look at the list of folks that it takes to get to a closing table, and it's pretty long, and I think people often look at their success and sometimes say like, oh, I built this all on my own, and now like I'm on the backs of a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me, getting to this point, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of backs that I'm climbing on and getting help with for the next couple decades to come. So yeah, it's definitely a team sport. It's a contact sport, so there's a lot that goes into it, and property management's the most contact out of all of it. We were getting calls before from a tenant that didn't, took over a unit and didn't like the way it was cleaned, and must have called 20 times in a row until somebody picked up it, because the oven wasn't clean to their standard or something. It's like, okay, so yeah, there's a lot of wonky things in this business, but definitely a team sport. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of your team, how many people work with you there at the office?
yeah, so we just onboarded a third agent on my team. So it's me and three others. Two of our team members, we were all veteran agents, and now we added a new non-veteran agent. And then we have some support staff that help us on the back end with marketing, sales, and some of our website and IT stuff. So nice team we have together. And we all try to grow as much as possible. That's the goal in mind. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what what are some things that you learned through your time in the military that has translated to the work that you're doing in real estate?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot, right? And people always say, "Oh, I have a hard time translating the skills that I've learned in the military and how they apply to corporate America or whatever job I'm in." And entrepreneurship is no different. There's a lot of things you can carry over into it. I think being an entrepreneur takes a lot of discipline, right? Like, and I think that's probably one of my weaker areas, oddly enough. But I still have to wake up every day and do the hard things, right? Do the things that nobody wants to do, and over and over and over and over and over again. And so I think you learn that in the Army. Is like, okay, like every day is going to be a little bit challenging, and you just know you got to get through it and got to get those things done. And so I think success comes from these little micro steps that you take every minute, every hour, every day, whatever. And so that's a big one. I think perseverance, right? Like I think people give up too easily on things, and sometimes I think about it too, right? When things get hard, or we have a couple deals that die on us, and you got a payroll to make, and it's like, okay, the weight of things can kind of get on your shoulders a little bit, and I think about, oh, I'll just go back to corporate America and do that thing again, and it sounds miserable to me. So I think there's this like no quit attitude in a lot of military folks, and that's something I've taken away. And I think the thing I revert back to the most is like, I hate to say this, but like there's a lot of thin-skinned people in this business, right? Like folks that just get offended so easily, and like not even by like mean jokes or being mean to, like offended as in like, oh, you submitted an offer that was just a little too low, and they take like the actual agents take it personal, and to think that like yelling and screaming in a transaction is an adult thing to do. So I try to we dealt with a lot of yelling and screaming and stuff, and the Army, and I always think to myself like, there are no life and death situations in this business, right? Like there's nothing
Right.
that's, at the end of the day, sure, we get stressed out. Sure, there's things that go wrong and you got to work through it. But like at the end of the day, like I feel like agents think of each other as the enemies sometimes. And I think we have to think of each other as like participants in the same race, like trying to get to the finish line for both of our clients, right? And instead of working against each other, let's try to work together to like figure out what, how do we make everybody happy in the transaction. So yeah, I think about that often, right? Like it's not none of this stuff, no one's going to die at the end of the day, right? And so
Yeah.
let's figure out how to calmly and cooperatively like get the job done, And I think other people need to embrace that attitude. And some people think that yelling the loudest is going to make them, win, in a negotiation or a fight or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm working a couple of contentious deals right now, and like, me and the other agent couldn't be more on the same page on things, and like we're working together to try to like, get what our clients respectively want, and there's going to be some give and take. And so that's the type of stuff, that collaboration is what I like about this. And I think other people need to it's not everybody. I shouldn't say that I've worked with a lot of great agents before, but there are folks that really worked up over nothing in this business. So
Yeah, I like to say, we're not doing brain surgery. It's like, I mean, some people may think that you're going to die, but you're really not. It's, and sometimes it's just like you're saying, getting everybody together and figuring out, okay, what do we need to do to get over this obstacle, and having that teamwork and, the persistence, and, having had the opportunity to do hard things before, prepares you to do hard things now.
yeah, puts in perspective too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do get stressed though. I will say that, like, I think there's this misconception, like, to the outside world, that like, oh, being in real estate is so easy and blah blah. Like, you're competing with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different things that can go wrong. My wife always says when I get something on her contract, I give her a little high five, and she goes, call me when the deal's done, right? And so there are so many variables in this business that can go wrong, and some of them are out of your control, right? So I think
Right.
that's the other big piece, is like, control what you can, and and realize that there's some things that are going to go wrong that you have no say over. So I've learned to, I don't want to say embrace those things. You try to get ahead of as many things as you can get ahead of, but sometimes like things are going to go wrong and you just can't do anything about it. So other than react and figure out a way around it. So
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes from, I don't know if you've seen the movie Sully, but the guy that landed in the Hudson, and he's with his flight instructor in Texas, and the guy's like, Sully, whatever you do, just fly the plane. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
that's all you can do.
Yep, for sure. Sure.
So, well, so obviously you're doing a lot of mentoring with the people on your team. What's some advice you would give to a newer agent or someone that's looking to get into the business?
Yeah, I feel like I'm like I don't know how to put this, but I'm not like your traditional salesman, right? Like, I've never been with a big brokerage. I've always been with a boutique shop for the most part, and my team's very small still. Like, I never did the agent 101 things, like, oh, call the expired listings, um go after, hold 1 million open houses and go meet everybody. Um, I'm like I'm like quietly like like I'm an introverted extrovert, right? So that stuff kind of doesn't come naturally to me. I like working my network, and so that's where I get most of my leads from. I think we did the math the other day. I think 60% of our sales this year are from our sphere, and so I like to work that the most, and then the more good work you do, the more your name's going to get out there, and then the more your sphere is going to grow, right? So but for new agents, I like to say, okay, we have a lot of leads that we've picked up over the years from different sources. And I say, okay, I said, we got 1,000 people in this database right now. Like, I'll tell you which ones that we haven't done a deal with, and maybe you could try to go after those. So like, we do a lot of that where we're trying to, like, I call it like, trying to get blood from a stone, right? So some of these people you're never going to do a deal with. And so we try to go back after those, folks in our network that haven't bought things. And I always say, like, make a list of, this is like a common sales thing, but like, make a list of everybody in this world, right? And like, they used to say, like, you rank them from A to D, and based off of how well you know them and where they're located, whatever the case is. So I always tell the new folks, like, make sure that everyone around you in your sphere knows what you're doing, right? And for years, I kept it quiet because I was doing real estate on the side, right? And I think a lot of people that are doing it on the side don't want their bosses to know, and don't want their coworkers to know. So after a while, like when I was in corporate America, I stopped caring about some of those things, because to be honest, like, nope, nobody bats an eye when you say, oh yeah, I go home at the end of the day and play video games or watch Netflix or ride my bike, whatever. But like, if you have a second interest or a second, I wouldn't call it a second profession, but like, if I'm helping people, buy and sell real estate or investing in real estate on the side, what I do in my spare time is what I do in my spare time. So
Yeah.
a lot of these new folks, I just say, get your name out there as much as possible, right? Because you'd be surprised how many of your friends and family are in need of some support in this. And I'd say also, like, leverage the team around you, right? So like, new folks that are joining a team or joining a brokerage, I think they're sometimes afraid to talk to those that have been around and that have done this before, and sometimes that can cause just a stagnant learning environment. So I try to get my team together as much as possible. I walk them through stuff. I try to make it so that they don't feel like they're alone in this, and when they're going to their first listing appointment or whatever. So I'd say, just leverage the people around you. Make sure everyone in your sphere knows what you're doing, and knows they can come to you for support. And also, don't, like, I don't want to say don't set high expectations. You obviously want to have lofty goals, but know that this business takes time. It's hard to sell tens of millions of dollars in your first year. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to do. So but it starts with a couple small steps. And they always say too, like, that lead generation is our number one goal as an agent. And yeah, certainly I agree to an extent. But my thing is, if you provide excellent service to your clients, like, that alone is going to help you get more business down the road and do a lot of the lead gen for you. So I try to go above and beyond, and sometimes do stuff that I'm not even that are outside my scope of responsibility. And quite many times I do those type of things. And so those are the things that might set you apart from other folks too. So
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned entrepreneurship earlier, and sounds like an entrepreneurial thing to do, where it's like you see a need and you step in there and do it. Have you always considered yourself an entrepreneur?
yeah, since I was a kid, both my parents were entrepreneurs, and my brother, and it was kind of like ingrained in us early on. And so I started working real young, and then started a landscaping business in high school, and then always had little side things going on throughout my time either at school or in the military. And then I felt like when I was in corporate America after I got out of the Army, I felt like a little bit of a fish out of water. It was a weird environment for me. I did well in the Army, and I liked it a lot. I felt like I was um, uh, you know working with people that cared about what we were doing. And not that corporate America was any different, but it was just a different environment. It wasn't very entrepreneurial. The bigger the company you're in, like, the less entrepreneurial it feels, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I'm finally kind of back to my roots a little bit, and doing something that I eat what I kill. And I have a chance to I used to, even in the Army, I used to sit, see the people next to me, and I said, oh, if I work twice as hard as these guys, there's really no path to make more money than them. Like, we're gonna probably all get promoted at the same timetable, and that's when those capitalist, like, light bulbs go off. So I'm happy that the things I do on a daily basis can impact my bottom line and my family's future. And I've always had it in my blood, and I'm glad I'm doing it. Some days I wish I never did, and some days I'm the happiest person in the world. So I think that's normal. I think there's an element of crazy and everybody that does this type of thing. And that you teeter totter whether this was a terrible idea or the best idea you ever had.
I know, right? And there's something about being paid for productivity, that, like, like you're saying, you could be twice as effective or work twice as hard, as someone especially in the military, because my son's in there, and I know, that it's like, but, or even in corporate America, it'll get you maybe a little bit ahead.
Yeah,
But,
not
if you want to
much.
see the exponential growth, you really just have to step out on your own.
Yeah, this used to say, hard work gives you more work. You get, or hard work's rewarded with more work. So yeah, every time, and no good deed goes unpunished in either corporate America or the military. And it's like, yeah, the harder you work, the more you get trusted with more responsibility. So anyway, yeah, it is. Now there's a dark side to that though, right? Where I do work a lot, and I know that my to sometimes my wife's disappointment. So there's balance that you need, and like I made it a point to, I make breakfast for my kids every day, and I make dinner for my kids every day. And that was one of my goals with all this, and I'm able to accomplish that. However, more nights than not, I'm working after they go to bed until kind of late at night. So I wish I need to do a little bit more to better balance myself, but by and large, this has given me a good amount of flexibility. But I think balance is important. I think that sometimes if you get in this mindset of like, okay, the more I hustle, the more money I'm going to make, where do you stop? When is enough enough? Where do you draw
Right.
the line? So I think that's important to understand. So
Yeah, having that life balance, where you're, like I said, you're, if a lot of it's stacking great days on top of each, it's like, it's not a microwave where you're gonna like, work, you can't work 36 hours in one day because we only have
right,
24, but over the course of time, if you're doing the right things for long enough, then you're going to get that momentum. And but yeah, it's 100%. It's always a temptation to be like, well, just a little bit more, and and it can be addictive sometimes.
for sure. Yeah, especially if things are going well, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, that's so yeah, I try to temper that as much as I can, and of course I want to provide more for my family, and I want to be successful. I want to grow, but I think there's got to be some limits to it, and I'm still trying to figure some of that stuff out. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of the program here today. I'm sure a lot of people would, love to, get more information about you and about working with you on real estate. What's the best way for someone to reach out and get a hold of you?
my website's got all my vital information on it, DorazioRealEstate.com. And yeah, you can find out probably my whole life story there, and probably my last four of my socials somewhere on there too. But yeah, so anybody could reach out via text or email. Would love to chat real estate with anybody. It's my wife will say it's one of my favorite things in the world to do. So yeah, people can find me there, and feel free to call, text, or email. So
I love it. I love it. Well, Andrew, thank you again for being with us here today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we'd love if you would subscribe to the channel and like and share it with other people that are interested in real estate or investing or being an entrepreneur. And again, thank you so much for watching the Financial Advantage, powered by the Wells Funding Group. We can be reached at 219-230-8400. Andrew, thank you again. It's been a great pleasure.
thanks, Dennis. Same here.
All right. All right.